And I'd like to welcome you all to our Tuesday 1:30 p.m. session with the Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area, where Jan will be talking about Parkinson's disease. I'm going to read our disclaimer before we get started. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual health well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information, any apps or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners, or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thanks so much for letting us read the disclaimer. If you cannot see us, hear us, or see the screen, please let us know in the chat, and we would appreciate that. Let's keep our TVs and cell phones in mind, so that way we can make sure we give ourselves the most immersive experience. And as always, let's make sure to take notes and our screenshots so we can review the information for later on if you would like. But this session will be recorded on our YouTube session channel as well. So make sure you check out this video in a couple of days. Other than that, again, Jan, if you could introduce yourself and your topic for today. Thank you again for coming on, and hope to learn a lot today. Thanks so much.
All right, well, I'll put my, this will stop others. Yep, okay. What do I want to do? I want to do that one. Okay. There we go. Oh, okay, so, oh, that's interesting because you can't see the whole screen.
Oh, I
Pictures.
can see we see the whole slide.
You do, okay, that's okay, because I've got your peach pictures over some of it. There we go, I'll put you at the bottom. That makes it a bit easier. Okay, I put the closed caption on. I don't know if that's helpful to folks so that you can see that. Can you all see that at the bottom?
Yes, I can see that on my end, Jan. Thank you so much. This is great. I haven't utilized this feature too much.
Okay. Well, I think that sometimes, especially with my voice being not local, shall we say, that people sometimes don't necessarily hear what I say quite so easily. Okay, so my name's Jan Hatherall. I am the Director of Operations at the Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area. And just obviously to reinforce your disclaimer, I am not a physician. However, I am a Parkinson's care partner. My husband has Parkinson's. He was diagnosed in 2018, although it turns out that he actually had symptoms which we had ascribed to other things right back from 2003. So it is very easy to overlook the fact that people have Parkinson's, especially if you have other conditions and you're taking other medications and you think, oh, these things that I've got, they're all just side effects, because that's what we thought for my husband. We felt that the things that he was experiencing were side effects of medication he was taking for other conditions that he had. So that's why I thought it's a good idea to go back through what kind of things you might be noticing if you find that that these things happen, or you're noticing in a friend or a family member. It's as well to mention it and actually get them to get themselves checked out. Okay. So again, it was on your disclaimer, but I would reinforce it. You must go to your primary care physician in the first instance if you have any medical questions that I'm raising with you today that you think I perhaps should have it checked out. And they presumably, if they think you are, might have the symptoms of Parkinson's disease, they would refer you on to a specialist neurologist, who would be somebody who is generally called a movement disorder specialist. And as you will see later in the presentation, there are a huge number of very, very expert, world-renowned medical personnel in our area, which is really fantastic. So lots of parts of the country, just have a general neurologist, whereas we over here around the DC area, we have a lot of really world-renowned medical centers: Johns Hopkins, Georgetown, for name two. There's a Brain and Spine Institute in just north of DC into Maryland, and so we are well provided with the people who are really good at specializing with movement disorder. And at the moment, my husband, for example, is actually working at the NIH, and there are a lot of studies going on at the NIH into Parkinson's disease. And so people who have Parkinson's in our area are also served by the National Institutes of Health, which is very helpful. Okay. So what do we know about Parkinson's disease? Well, Parkinson's disease, just to remind you, is a chronic neurological condition. There's a part of the brain called the substantia nigra where dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, is produced. And what is actually going on if you have Parkinson's disease is that the number of cells in that area of the brain reduce. And as they die and don't get replaced, the body's ability to make dopamine gets reduced. So one of the most important things people who have Parkinson's disease can do is to make sure they make as much dopamine as possible from the cells that they have left. But inevitably, it is a progressive disease. It is not something that there is a cure for. And any medication at the moment is really trying to replace the dopamine, which is not being produced by the brain. However, that is not just, there are lots of other things. The dopamine, generally, the symptom that everybody thinks about with people who have Parkinson's is a tremor. And that is because dopamine carries signals in the brain to the areas that control movement and coordination. And so those are the 10 things that you tend to see all the time in people who have Parkinson's. But it is a really weird disease because there's a whole raft of possible things that it can be displayed as. Some people never get a tremor, but they have other symptoms of Parkinson's disease. And it is notoriously difficult to get an accurate diagnosis because of that, because it isn't always just the tremor that you see. The best way of diagnosing it is to have a DAT scan, which is a scan of the brain, okay? But even that is not like a 100% certain way of diagnosing it. When my husband was finally diagnosed, and again, I'm only giving you a case history of one, and the most important thing about Parkinson's, which is the adage, which says that if you've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've just seen one person with Parkinson's, because there is so many symptoms and not everybody has all of them. So everybody has a selection of them and to varying degrees. So, it is really quite hard to get a diagnosis. And when my husband was diagnosed, it was kind of a reverse diagnosis. Well, I'm going to give you this drug, which is known to support people with Parkinson's. And if it helps, then you've got Parkinson's. So that's how bad it is that even the specialists, the easiest way, the cheapest way, if you like, to get a diagnosis is to find out if the drug helps to start with. Okay. So the motor symptoms then, as we said, the number one thing that everybody thinks about is what's called resting tremor. So when you are sat down or just standing, not doing anything, the thing which can happen is you get a tremor. Most people get a tremor in one of their hands or arms as a first symptom. Most people. Sometimes it's a tremor in your leg, one of your legs. But usually the most common is in the arm and visible in the hand, that it just sits there tremoring, particularly when you're not doing anything. And when the symptoms first come up, you can still think, I want to do something with my hands. I want to, I don't know, cook, cut onions up, whatever it is you want to do, or be down in the workshop doing some things, okay? And you can control the tremor when you are really thinking about making sure you want to do something, because it generally shows just when you're resting. But obviously, as it progresses, it goes on. The other thing that you might notice in somebody the first time you see them has Parkinson's, and this is again one of the things that I really noticed about my husband. When I retired from my original first job of being a principal of a high school, okay, I started walking with my husband. And when we used to go out, he used to go and put his walking boots on and doing up the laces of walking boots. It was like watching somebody do something in slow motion, like somebody had really slowed it up, and it was going like this, and I'm thinking, how long is it going to take you to do your shoelaces up? But of course, he didn't know, and we didn't know, that this is a very common symptom of Parkinson's. It's called bradykinesia, the technical term, but you might notice it in things like buttoning up shirt buttons, or doing up a coat, or, as I say, doing shoelaces, or anything like that. Any fine fiddly work cutting up onions, doing cooking, any of those kinds of things, making a cup of tea, that it happens much slower than somebody that doesn't have Parkinson's. And it's a very common first symptom that people notice. The other thing that people notice, if you look at them, if you're out walking with somebody or you're watching somebody walking across a room and you think to yourself, well, that doesn't look quite right. They look really kind of stiff in their shoulders and their hips. They're holding their body kind of straight as they're moving. And you might notice one of the very common symptoms is that the arms, which normally, you swing your arms, don't you, as you're walking, opposite side. So you're, oops, that's my alarm going off. Oops, a daisy. Okay, as you swing your arms, the opposite arm goes forward as the opposite leg goes forward. So you're doing this swinging and your hips swing. Okay, and someone with Parkinson's, you might notice, does not do that. In particular, the arm that has the tremor when it's resting doesn't swing as much as it should when you are walking. So that's called cogwheel rigidity. My goodness, technical terms. However, you will easily notice it in somebody generally if they have Parkinson's. If you're watching them walk or do something, you will notice that this really, they seem to be holding themselves stiff. Okay, let's go through a few other manifestations that you might see. Okay, I don't know if you get Christmas cards from people. Okay, but one of the strange symptoms of Parkinson's is that people's handwriting changes. The writing gets much smaller because people with Parkinson's think they are moving their hands a lot, moving their body a lot, even though they are not. So their brain is kind of lying to them. And so they think they're doing things normally, whereas actually they are not. And these are the things which obviously we're noticing. Okay, so Lena, you've put your hand up. Do you have a question, Lena?
All right, Miss Wilson, you have a question or a comment about something Jan has shared so far? You got to hit unmute in the middle.
Shall I ask to unmute?
Oh, there you go, Miss Lena. Miss Wilson, do you have a question or a comment for Jan today?
Oh,
Lena, did you have a question for today?
no.
Oh, okay, thanks so much, Miss Lena. Appreciate it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I just thought if there was a specific question about handwriting. So your brain, the brain of somebody with Parkinson's is often lying to them, and they think they're making what you might describe as normal hand movements or leg movements or whatever other part of the body they're moving, but actually it is much less movement than they think it is. This is a really strange phenomenon. This is why when you see somebody walking, one of the other things you might see is that they are only taking much shorter steps than would be considered normal when somebody was walking, because they think they're still taking a big stride, whereas actually it's got much smaller and you just don't realize it. So this is, small handwriting, I say, and that's something you might easily notice this time of year. If you are getting Christmas cards from people, then that is something that you might see, that their handwriting of somebody that you know has changed completely and it looks much smaller than you ever remember it being. Okay. The other one when you're with people that you might notice is what's called the Parkinson's mask. Okay, so when I'm speaking, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm, waving my hands about, my face is moving, my eyes are moving, I'm being expressive with my face as I talk, which is perfectly normal. But somebody with Parkinson's might well just sit there like this, not moving their face at all, not changing it, not smiling, not moving at all. And it's called the Parkinson's mask because all of the little muscles in your face are also controlled by the drug, by the neurotransmitter dopamine, which is now reduced in a person with Parkinson's. And again, that can be something that you might spot very early on in the disease. Somebody that used to laugh and smile a lot isn't laughing and smiling in the same way they used to for no reason, and that could be a symptom of Parkinson's. The other thing that can happen there, again, in terms of expression, My mouth moves a lot when I'm speaking, but again, if you think about all the muscles that you have to control in your face and your mouth in order to get sound out, those are all ones that are affected by dopamine. So your speech can get much quieter. And also, one of the things that can happen is that the words blur into one another. So you might be listening to someone speaking and thinking, I'm finding it difficult to make out what the words are because there's no gap between the words. There's no change in the expression between the words. And so it's really hard to understand people. Okay. And that's a very common early symptom that you might see of somebody with Parkinson's. They might have difficulty swallowing. It's hard to know that and to observe it unless you're really, close to somebody. But again, an early symptom that I noticed in my husband was that, if he wanted to take a Tylenol because he had a headache, all right, he would find it really difficult to swallow a Tylenol with water. He just couldn't swallow them. He found it really, really hard. And so most of the medication he takes now, anything he has to take, he takes a chewable form of it because he can't swallow it now. It's got so difficult for him to swallow that he just doesn't try. It's just too hard. So most of his medication is either very small pills or he has a gummy so that he can chew it. Okay, now as we said, it's a progressive disease. Those cells in that sustentia nigra that were producing dopamine are starting to die off and getting less and less and less. Actually, before you start to really notice any of these real symptoms, well over half of them have gone. And your body has managed to compensate for the smaller amount of dopamine. But as you get more and more cells dying, even with the medication, you will see people really slow up in their gait, in their walking. They will take smaller steps. The steps are not as quick as they would have been. It can become imbalanced. Uh, People very often lean to one side or to the other. And because of that lean, they are also trying to compensate for their balance. You don't die of Parkinson's disease. It's not a killer. There are lots of awful diseases which are going to be shortening your life. Parkinson's is not one of those. It's a disease that you live with and it makes life more difficult for you. But one of the things which really can cause a problem, which can lead to early death, is that people fall over. Okay, and falling over, breaking your hip, breaking other parts of your body, and then not being as mobile means that that accelerates all of the other kinds of conditions that you might have in your body as you age. And we're talking mostly here about older people with Parkinson's. I mean, probably been aware of Michael J. Fox, who has had Parkinson's since he was 29 years old. And he is now saying that it's getting really, really bad because he is finding it so difficult to move. He is falling over all the time. He's broken so many parts of his body in the falls that he has had. And it's the falls and the after effects of the falls which tend to cause really difficult problems for people with Parkinson's and can lead to earlier death. Okay, what other things? Okay, now, again, not everybody has these things, but a lot of people have sleep disturbance. Okay, one of the things that you could have is movement while you're asleep, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a minute, but also people find it difficult to stay asleep. I know a lot of our people in the Parkinson Foundation that we are helping, they very often are getting up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, unable to go to sleep again, which is a terrible thing. So again, that can be an early symptom, and something certainly worth getting checked out is if you are unable to get a good night's sleep and are regularly, not just the occasional night, which I think probably most of us have from time to time, but if it becomes a regular thing where you can't get a good night's sleep, you really should have it checked out. And there are lots of other medications that can be given to really help you get a better night's sleep. That is a crucial thing for all of us to keep ourselves healthy. We all need a good night's sleep. The other thing then, apart while you're asleep, is this movement while you're asleep, is that most of us have dreams, and we probably, and most of us, I don't know, can remember them or not remember them. Are you people who remember your dreams? I never remember what I dream about. But, we're having them nonetheless, and we tend to have this rapid eye movement phase of our sleep, which means we're getting a good night's sleep. It's as one of the phases of sleep about every hour and a half while we're asleep. But people with Parkinson's lose the paralysis which the body normally has when you are dreaming. So if you're dreaming about, I don't know, fighting the aliens over there in Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, okay, a person with Parkinson's losing that paralysis, which means you're just thinking about it in your head, they will be acting it out and actually going for it, flashing their arms about and fighting and generally being very, very active. And that it can be a very dangerous thing. Obviously, the person that if you are sharing a bedroom or a bed with somebody, having somebody next to you who is fighting their own battle in the galactic empire next to you can be very dangerous. And also, it can be very dangerous for them because they might actually, again, fall out of bed, which can be a real problem. Some people who have active dreams, they need to have one of these bars that you have like on hospital beds to make sure that they can't roll out of bed as they're having these active dreams. So these are things which are really easy to prevent causing bigger problems, but it's important. I don't know, people talked about their dreams when you're with them, then it might be as well to know if they are acting them out, because if they are, then that can be something which is a symptom of Parkinson's. I'm sure there are other reasons why people might have that problem, but again, it's always worth getting it checked out. The difficulty in swallowing progressive. I talked about, my husband having difficulty swallowing medications, but obviously you also swallow food. And as you get more advanced in the disease, difficulty in swallowing can lead to choking and also to aspirating food into the lungs rather than them going down through the alimentary canal. They go through into the lungs. They get past that little choking reflex thing in the throat. And that can be the other thing which is life shortening, because it can lead to pneumonia, which can lead to early death. So this is something, if you are with somebody eating and you're seeing them having this choking problem when they're eating, then it's something which might, again, be sensible to get checked out, because you don't know, it could be other diseases, but it also could be a sign of Parkinson's. Again, another motor symptom that we don't think about, just because we aren't making it happen, our whole alimentary canal that we just spoke about food going into, that is actually muscles squeezing the food right the way through the system. And because it's not working as well, the motor aspect of it, then it can lead to constipation. And there are very easy remedies to take with that, eating more fiber and apple sauce to make it go down easy and those kinds of things. You can easily get the recipe for reducing constipation online, and it's very sensible to think about taking that if you are somebody who is suffering with constipation, regardless of whether that's Parkinson's disease causing it or anything else. And we all can do with eating more fiber. More fiber is a good idea. And the other thing is, it's not necessarily a motor symptom, but Parkinson's can also lead to depression and anxiety and other mental aspects, and may even be lead into having dementia. But those aren't necessarily things that you're going to see easily or think to yourself, that's Parkinson's disease. But these are things that you might find in people that you see, oh, okay, they're not looking so good, they're not remembering things quite so well. Get them checked out, because it might be Parkinson's, or it might be the first signs of other diseases of the brain. And then a little refresher then of what we're doing and why we are helping. There's a program called BIG, which was developed because of this issue with people with Parkinson's not realizing that their movements have got much smaller. And so one of the things we're really good at doing is running direct services to help people fight Parkinson's. And one of those main ones is that it is, I'm going to just show you hopefully the picture of people exercising. Now, our instructors know how to get people with Parkinson's exercising the joints, as we talked about earlier, the shoulders and the hips and the spine, and getting those movements back so that they are looking more normal. All right. Now, it's not actually, the big program, because that would have to be one-to-one with a physical therapist, but we do it in groups, which also provides socialization for people with Parkinson's, which is a really good one. I'm just going to go back now to here. Okay, so the most important thing to know about PFNCA, Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area, is that we are not a part of the Parkinson Foundation, which is a national organization. They focus on other things. There's also other organizations like the Michael J. Fox Foundation, there's Davis Phinney Foundation, and I think there's about 300 altogether different organizations across the United States which are offering various different things for people with Parkinson's. But what we do is that we are providing these direct services of wellness programs and also educational opportunities that I'll talk about in a minute for people, and originally only around the DC area. But since the pandemic, we pivoted straight away in April 2020 to getting our services mostly online via Zoom, which obviously you are much more expert at Zoom than I'll ever be. But, it's so easy to provide the services of education and exercise classes via Zoom. So we're completely independent, but our services of education and wellness programs are evidence-based. These are the things which work for people with Parkinson's. You can, by moving and by practicing getting the joints which are most affected by Parkinson's working well, and also what's called this aspect I was talking about of your brain not registering how much you're moving, which is a big problem. It's called proprioception, okay? That all right, can be increased by performing certain sequences of exercises. And all of our exercise programs are based on those. Okay, and then we have educational activities run by our fantastic medical advisory board, and I will talk a bit more about those again in a moment. But they produce educational opportunities for people to learn more about the condition. And again, because it's such a disease with such a varied number of symptoms that not everybody has these particular ones, it's very useful for people who are exhibiting a particular symptom to find out how best they can help themselves manage that particular symptom. Okay, all right. So we run exercising body, mind, and voice classes 7 days a week, even on the holidays. Every single day of the year, we run at least one class. Now, on the major holidays like Christmas Day next week and during the holidays that are running up past that into the new year, we'll just offer one class a day at 10 a.m. Okay, but going to those classes on Zoom or in person, for some of the ones that are in person around the DMV, there's no cost at all, but you do have to register. But I have lots of money that people have given us for scholarships, so that if the joining fee, the registration fee, which insures you for taking our classes, which is $50 for a year, okay, if that's prohibitive in any way, I can provide it at absolutely no cost to people, because our mission is to support people, not to make money out of them. We raise money. We'll talk about in a minute how we raise our money, okay, as well. But it's really important to make sure that people can do these classes. Every weekday afternoon, we have a communication club, which is the one that really gets you a chance to practice using your voice, which is really important, keeping those voice muscles strong, because that will help with the swallowing issue as well. And also talking about things. So I knew already that it was Wright Brothers Day today, even though you told me as well, and I could see from your picture straight away about that, was because our communication club today was thinking about the fact that it's Wright Brothers Day. And one of the things they will do is get people's brains working about the Wright brothers, thinking about the past, thinking about the history, etc., and talking and communicating with one another for an hour. So that's a really good opportunity to practice using your brain as well. And I also saw that you were looking at Read a Book Month. Well, the Parkinson's Foundation of the National Capital Area runs a book club at 4 p.m. on Zoom every Monday afternoon. And we choose the books sort of a few weeks in advance so people can get hold of them, mostly from the libraries. We never read anything that's brand new because it's too costly for people to keep buying books. So we tend to try and get ones that are available from the libraries, or ones that are very, very cheap to buy, say on Audible, 99p ones, that kind of thing, cent ones, really cheap things. But exercising your mind by reading and then having a book club to discuss what you've read is a really good way of doing that. Okay. And then I said we have online ones, mostly about 35 online classes a week, and about 10 or 12 now, I think it is, no, probably more than that now, about 16 of those are in person. Some of them are in person and online. We call those hybrid, and some of them are just online or just in person. And this year, we will have provided over 2,500 classes, which is quite an impressive number to have produced. Okay. And again, it's very important for people, whether you are someone with Parkinson's, or sometimes we've got quite a few folks who have joined us to do our exercise programs just for doing the exercise programs, whether or not they have Parkinson's. Quite a lot of the care partners are registered as well, and they go with their person and to the classes, either on Zoom or in person, and join in and do the exercises. And we are absolutely thrilled to take anybody who wants to do exercise of anything of these things. So, you can join book club if you want to, you can do exercising, or you can do communication clubs if you want to. Okay, so there's some folks. This is these are people here. They're doing a communication club, and the ones on the right, one of their exercise things they're doing there is boxing. Very popular boxing, because it makes you think like you haven't got Parkinson's, but it's really good because it really does. It makes you balance, which is really good because it increases your core strength, and also it increases your coordination and hence your proprioception, which means that, again, like talking about it so much, that people begin to understand that their brain is lying to them about where their body is and what it's doing. And that is a really important thing for people with Parkinson's. Okay, so this is how you access it. This is our main website, first front page, and there's a button there where you can press to get onto the class schedule. There's a password protected. If you register for the year, $50, then you get the password and you can click and join any class at any time live online. Underneath this button on the website front page, if you want to try some out, there are a few pre-recorded classes, so you can see if they would suit you before you actually have to join and pay your money, just to have a kind of sampler session just underneath on the left hand side of this orange box on the main website, pfnca.org, and you can have a go at some of the classes if you want to. Okay, we also have a Parkinson's Pointers lecture series, as well as the big annual symposium. These are some pictures from the big symposium, which we've held in hotels in the past. But since the pandemic, we've also offered it on Zoom because that's been useful for folks. And it has meant that we can have people from areas outside the DMV as well as around it. Okay, but again, our medical advisory board, who run both those two things, are really amazing people. So we have, as you can see, some various centres: George Washington University, Neurology Centre of Fairfax, Parkinson's and Movement Disorder Centre of Maryland, the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, Innova. There's a whole range. We are so lucky and so well served in this area by incredible practitioners who are all movement disorder specialists. And I can't reinforce enough, if you think that you or a friend has any of these symptoms, go get checked out by your primary care physician. And then if you want to find somebody who's good, we can't recommend anybody to you, but I would always say to folks, and I get asked just about every day of the year, who do you recommend I go to? Now I've got a preliminary diagnosis of Parkinson's, and I said, well, I can't recommend anybody to you, but go to these to our medical advisory board page on our website and have a look at these areas and see which ones are near to you, and see if you can get in. Now, these people are leading practitioners in those areas, but they will have colleagues who perhaps will have more availability to see people. You know, I mean, my husband has said he's at the National Institute at the moment under Deborah Ehrlich, but we don't see her every time we go. We see one of the doctors underneath her, which is, you know, just as brilliant having somebody then, because any issues, whatever, they will be referred up to Dr. Ehrlich. Okay, so we are amazingly equipped locally by fantastic practitioners. Use them. I mentioned fundraising, so if you're feeling like having a bit of fun every autumn, fall, end of September or beginning of October, a Sunday, we run a Walk Off Parkinson's event. You can see our doctors there playing softball, all dressed up for playing softball in their green tops. Okay, and we have it at the Shirley Povich Field in Cabin John Park, and it's run like a summer fete. And as we would have with summer fetes, sometimes it rains and looks really disgustingly horrible, as in the left-hand picture. But we've also had really good sunny days, which have been absolutely fun, with lots of fun events for kids and adults, as well as some lectures and some exercise opportunities, some practice the classes that we have, so people can come and get tasters. But one of the main things, obviously, is to do the walk around the field, the baseball field there, and raise money for walking. And we find that that's what supports our whole annual program. The money we raise for this event is the money that pays for those classes, so that people who want them and need them don't have to. Okay, we also go out and about on various parades. We do July the 4th parades and Labor Day parades and things like that. We have this mascot amp with his baseball kit on there. Okay, and we have a truck, which we'll show you here, okay, which we drive about, and which is a good advertising thing for the PFNCA. And sometimes at these things, you know, we can give out a card to people who say, oh, I didn't know, you know, let's have so-and-so I know might have Parkinson's, you know, can I take some information, etc. So it's all about raising the awareness of what we can offer to folks around DC. We think that's really important. So AMP and the truck don't go outside of the area immediately around DC. But this is an old, I think it's 1986 command fire vehicle from Canada, which has been repurposed and put decals on it to make it our parade truck. And we can take that out to events anywhere to provide stands to say, you know, this is what we can do for people with Parkinson's and help them to defy this disease. Okay, what do people say about our things? Yeah, we like the variety, and there's a whole load of variety. We do dance classes, boxing classes, Tai Chi classes, ordinary exercise classes. We have martial arts classes. You know, doesn't matter what exercise it is. All right, it will all be based around those big programs, and always based to make it fun and practice the movements that people need to keep their joints and their muscles moving as best as possible and controlling them, and also providing the opportunity to talk with other people who have this condition and to enjoy socializing, because sometimes people with Parkinson's can feel embarrassed about the symptoms and stop going out and meeting other folks. And that's a terrible thing to happen to anybody. We know nowadays that socialization is almost as important as everything else in life to help you live a long and happy and well-balanced life. So like this program, I'm sure, of all of you meeting up for all the things you do, that's really great. And so is our exercise program. Okay, we have fantastic dedicated instructors. We are very lucky. Nearly all of them have got specialist qualifications for Parkinson's exercises, and all of them are absolutely dedicated to make sure that they give people the best opportunities to be their best selves with this disease. There you go. We've got some accolades. We've done well. And then finally, This is our contact details. And again, if you're recording this, you can always go back there and find it. If you need to get in touch, then you can email or call or go on our website to explore more. There's much more detail about all of the symptoms and all of the various things about Parkinson's. Okay, and I hope that that has been a useful refresher.
Oh, well,
There's
thank you so much, Jan, for coming on and presenting to us today. I learned again something new about Parkinson's disease while you're going over those different symptoms. I just want to do my own research. I have been seeing a few commercials on TV in regards to Parkinson's research, but everything from the poor sleep is associated with the depression. That's really interesting to learn and to see how they are better diagnosing people and the new medicines that are in like trials right now. It's really quite interesting, and there's a lot of people talking about it, which makes sense.
They are, but one of the, can I just mention, I didn't mention that about the research. I don't know, I mentioned it one of the last ones I did, but there's a lot more activity around the idea of it that Parkinson's and lots of other brain conditions are actually originating in the gut. Is that one of the ones
Mhm.
you heard about, Alex?
Oh yes, that was from like your first session. I learned about
Yeah,
relate because
yeah,
the gut and the brain are connected.
they are. The vagus nerve connects the gut and to the brain, and the vagus nerve sounds like a kind of tiny little thread to you and me, I guess. But when you learn about it, you find actually it's a whole bundle of fibers that are encased in a sheath, and basically they think that some of these uh, microbes that you find, bacteria, viruses, and things that you might find in the gut are traveling up that vagus nerve sheath into the brain and causing a lot of the problems. So that's been a really interesting find, and it's been a really good area of research at the moment. It's people everywhere are talking about it at the moment. We're really hoping that they're going to find a way of managing to help that. That'd be really good. Is there some people in the chat that have questions here? Did we see?
No, I don't see any. Just if you could check if you got any direct messages. But we have some hands that are raised. So again, if you have a question or a comment or anything you'd like to share with Jan before we end for today, make sure you raise your hand. But we've learned quite a bit. And again, make sure you take a screenshot or write down the contact information that you see on the screen. And just one more thing before we take questions, I think, especially those symptoms, even if it's not Parkinson's, if something's wrong, like say something, do something. If it is Parkinson's and you have a lot of great research and information already, and if it's not, at least you learned about something, maybe even potentially before it could do a lot of damage. So if something's wrong, you just ask for help. I
Get
think
it
that's
checked
so
out. That's the most important message of the day. It does, it might not be Parkinson's, but that doesn't matter. If it's something that's not working quite right and you see some of those symptoms, get it checked out. Do not let it just pass and think, oh, that's nothing, because it might be something.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have three hands. Again, any thoughts or comments or questions, raise your hand, but make sure you stay on for our poll. Hey, Ann, how is it going?
Hi, Alex. Miss Jane, I just wanted to tell you thank you. I talked to you before and you gave me some tips. I'm dealing with my great aunt,
Yes.
and it seems like that I'm up here and they're down there, and I'm trying to get them on a program that will benefit her. So your help has been immensely helpful.
Thank you, Anne. That's really good to hear.
And you said something today that I had got them doing, and that is playing audio books for her.
Mhm.
It seems to calm her down.
Yes.
I've talked with the doctor at Oshner's Medical Center, and they he said I've had him look at your tape, and he has been in contact with somebody and gotten some information from you. He said he wished they had an organization in New Orleans that is as good as yours.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I hear that so often. I get requests from all over and they say, oh, I wish we had that locally, you know, but I can't help you. I've only got my local people. I haven't got anybody else. But
Um,
obviously the exercise and the wellness programs are available online to the individuals, and that is really useful. You know, I've got quite a good link with a university over in California where they are having group sessions doing some of our classes, which is completely crazy. You'd think somewhere could have programs similar, but we perhaps are trendsetters, hopefully.
well, you all have an excellent, excellent program here. I've talked to several doctors in this area that says the Parkinson's Foundation of the National Capital Area is excellent.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to pass that on to you. And I wanted to thank you for your kind words and your encouragement to help me keep on pushing because it's difficult
Yeah,
doing
that's
this
so
long
hard.
distance. Yeah.
Distance. So hard.
Yeah. And especially when you have young people that have ideas that are different from what you're trying to tell them. And so her grandchildren are taking care of her. So it's hard. But thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank
And
you.
have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And the same to you. Thank you,
Thank
Anne.
you. Mhm.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. Next up is Geraldine. Thanks so much for sharing.
Oh, hi, hello. Thank you, Jan. Thank you for coming again. And I was reminded again that everybody with Parkinson's doesn't have that tremor. I think you said that before, but you look at Parkinson and you first thing I think about is the tremor. But I want to ask you a question. What would be the benefit of finding out early on if your symptoms are resulting from Parkinson's or something else? What?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So there is a medication which has been around since the 50s, which
Yeah.
has not yet been superseded, which is called carbidopa levodopa. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get on that early, it replaces the dopamine that your body is not making because it's lost these cells that I keep talking about in the brain.
Okay.
Okay, so that will help control the tremor symptoms, particularly, and the other motor symptoms that you have with Parkinson's. It's not going to help things like the depression or dementia aspects, which can develop. There's a thing called Lewy bodies that might grow in the particular area of the brain, and those can lead to dementia. And it's not going to help with those, but it will help with the motor symptoms. And so
Okay.
say, my husband, I'm going to use your case study here. That's my experience of this is that my husband has been taking carbidopa levodopa since 2018 and has had great control of his symptoms really until recently. And now he is not doing so well on the medication because the number of, you remember that he was diagnosed late, so the actual cells he's got now are very, very limited. And so, you know, the amount of the drug he has to take, and obviously there are some side effects of the drug, okay, that those side effects are now sort of more prominent because he's having to take more of the medication.
Okay.
One of the, and again, have you seen Michael J. Fox? All right, but do
I
you know
haven't seen him lately. I haven't seen.
he kind of twitches like this?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now that is called dyskinesia, and
Okay.
that is from the taking the drug and taking a bit too much, because basically the drug, when you take it, and you have to take it regularly at set intervals, okay, it boosts the amount of dopamine straight away, that sort of a few minutes after you've taken it, and then that amount of dopamine that it will give you reduces over the next few hours before you take the next pill, and you kind of bounce up again and with more dopamine.
Yeah.
All right. But when you kind of have gone further down to the disease that you're not making hardly any dopamine yourself, okay, because you've had the disease for 20 odd years, okay, or in his case even longer than that, okay, when you take the drug, you have to take so much that you kind of overshoot and you
Okay.
go past controlling the tremor into this dyskinetic state where you twitch a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the advantage of being diagnosed earlier is that you can start taking the carbidopa levodopa early, and you can get control of most of the symptoms.
Okay.
But as your brain gets more and more affected by the lack of dopamine, that will cause side effects, and there will be other things that can be taken at that stage. I mean, my husband is at the moment working with the NIH, and he is looking at, and he's going to have the surgery, which is called deep brain stimulation, where electrodes into the brain, this area, and the electrical stimulation provides the control that the dopamine used to control. And
Okay.
that's fantastic results, if assuming it works well. And you have to be tested to make sure you are a candidate that would respond to it. But what I'm saying to you is there are things that can be done now once you get past the stage of the carbidopa levodopa, and there's no disadvantage with getting that early. So the earlier you get diagnosed, the earlier you get the replacement from the dopamine, and the more chance you have of doing the exercises and getting control of your body and retraining your brain to understand what your body is doing. And that can only be a good thing.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Yep. Thank you, Geraldine. And yes, we watched the video together, I think the last session, Jan, about the deep brain stimulation. So everything is coming together.
But the questions are interrelated, aren't they? There's only one set of answers, kind of thing. Okay,
Right.
there's actually an alternative to deep brain stimulation, which is non-invasive, which some people prefer. It's not so controllable in terms of being able to be adjusted as the disease progresses in an individual, but it's called focused ultrasound, and it does the same thing, but using ultrasound to affect the brain area that controls the motor symptoms, and that works very well for around 5 years. Okay, so that's another kind of treatment. If people think that the actual operation perhaps is too scary or it doesn't suit them, then the focused ultrasound is now an alternative. As you said earlier, I think it was yourself, there's so much research going on, and this area is really good at that. You can get all kinds of into it, lots of studies to help you as the disease progresses.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. We have one more hand. If there are any other questions or comments, again, please make sure you stay on for our poll. Hey, Louise, thanks so much for joining. You have a question or comment for today?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2019, but my problem was I was getting these dreams where I'm running in the forest and, doing all these fighting this one and
Yep, I know those ones. My husband has them. Yeah, absolutely.
and I hurt myself a couple of times because I have this big wooden bed with the big knot at the bottom.
Oh,
Jumped out the bed and running from somebody, and I hit my chest and I bounced back. And my mom was saying, "Why are you having those crazy dreams?" And my sisters were laughing at me, and they thought it was funny. And then I had a dream one night that I was running and I broke my side table with my lamp. I had the drawer halfway out. And while running, I hit the drawer and the drawer slide out with everything in it. And somebody had to come and repair it. And then I have scratches here and I'm wondering, why am I having these wild dreams? And then afterwards, I was driving down the street and my left arm started shaking. But I thought it was the traffic, because there was so much traffic on the road. I was going to Annapolis.
yeah.
And then when I went to the doctor and I said, oh my God. And then my back shifted. My back is like scoliosis.
Yep.
And my back shifted.
The imbalance now.
Yeah. And it's difficult to stay balanced. And so even right now, I'm going through, since this week, my left hip started now. My right knee was bothering me, but then my left hip is bothering me now.
So in case, have you adapted your bedroom now so that you have got it safer? I mean,
Yeah.
we moved the nightstand so that there was no nightstand for my husband because
It's it's
he
all
also
right.
wrecked the nightstand in the same way as you're describing. The night lamp and the glass of water all went every ways one day.
So I have to move stuff out the way.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we did was I know it's expensive and it can be difficult, but we managed to find a bed that was much lower.
Yeah, I
So
have.
in case you do fall out, there's not so
Mm.
far to go. And we also have a pillow on the ground at the head end.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so that if he falls out, he only lands his head on the pillow because I don't want him to break his head open again after the
Oh,
last time.
I
So
have put a
there are adaptations that you can make for yourself to make it safer for you. You know,
yeah, and the levodopa did not help me. I end up with scratching, itching, swelling. I tried 3 different drugs and none of those work. Now I'm on Marapex, but sometimes it feels like it's not working because I still have more tremors and even my head starts shaking now.
yeah, well, as I said to you, all right, as it progresses and your brain cells are getting less and less and less of the ones that produce dopamine, you will
Mhm,
find that drugs start not working as well. Okay.
mhm,
And then there are these other 2 treatments now, the focused ultrasound and the deep brain stimulation. So
mhm,
my recommendation to you is, you have to go and advocate for yourself with your doctor, with your movement disorder specialist or your neurologist and say, look, this is not working so well now. Can I be considered for, can you investigate whether it would help me to have one of these other treatments like
mhm,
brain stimulation or focused ultrasound, because they
mhm,
have really good results.
mhm.
Okay, and then, I mean, you will still have to take some drugs, but it will be much, much less, but it gives you back the control of the tremor and stops those worst of the motor symptoms.
Yes.
Okay, but you have to push for it. They're not going to do it unless you ask. I
Yes,
can tell you
Louise.
that now. You know what it's like here. You
They,
have to really push and
it's
get.
very discouraging sometimes.
I understand that. Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have a partner or a friend who can go with you to the doctor, who can voice your concerns in a very strong
I
way?
have I have 2 sons and 2 brothers that usually help me out.
Excellent. Take
Yes.
take one of them with you and get them to advocate for you as well, because you're just going to have to push hard to get one of the more advanced treatments, if you like.
Yeah,
Okay?
thank you.
You got this, Louise.
You have. You absolutely got this. You can do
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna work on it. I'm glad that you came and kind of helped me to start thinking,
Yeah.
you know,
This is a
direct.
progressive disorder, Louise. And your brain is losing dopamine cells every single minute of every day,
Yeah.
gradually over time. And so, it sounds to me like you've got to the stage where you need to look at other interventions.
Because my steps are so slow. My son said, pick your feet up. I say, good for you to say that. My brain is not telling me to pick it up. Brain, my brain is saying one thing, and my leg is saying something else.
I know, I understand completely. I really do. Yeah. So go and get an appointment and push hard to
Yeah.
get them to look at doing something else now for you, because otherwise it's only going to get worse. And I hate to say that, but we want to make you be able to live the best quality of life that is possible for
Yeah.
you. That's what our job is at the PFNCA. We hope people can have the best quality of life possible with this progressive condition.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
But by all means, contact me offline and we can talk further if you need my assistance. Okay.
Your number, the only thing.
Yeah. So this number here on the screen, 301-844-6510, and one of the extensions, by all means, get in touch. Okay, Louise?
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hey, Louise. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. Well, once again, Jan, thank you so much for coming on. I think your session today will really help out the folks in our call and their friends and family and everyone in between. And you sharing what you learned today may help out one or many others. So it's really important to be able to share the knowledge and information that we are just so blessed to have received. Jan, any last thoughts or words for anything
So,
about
you know, it's up to all of us to be people who observe our friends and family so that it's noticed. If we see any things that are possible symptoms that could be corrected, then we need to help people get that push, if you like, to go and see somebody and get the corrections and help that they need. It may not be Parkinson's, but it might be something else. But whatever it is, people can only do that by contacting first case their primary care physician and getting anything that they're concerned about looked at. Okay, and apart from that, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, Jan. Make sure you all stay on for the poll, but let's wish Jan a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see her next time. Thank you, Jan.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
And
holidays.
God bless
Happy
you.
holiday. Thank you so
And-
Merry
much.
Christmas.
Bye. Happy
Okay.
Christmas.
Be safe.
Say thank
Bye.
you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of